Welcome, welcome. It's a Thursday and I'm adjusting the screen. I am adjusting my hair and I am going to start tagging people in the screen so I can invite our very, very special guest today to our live masterclass. Major content fails and how to avoid them. So excuse me while I look at the screen while I'm tagging and doing all this invitation things that I have to do. Welcome, welcome, welcome. What an honor to have you here today. I'm gonna see Louise. Hello, hello. So I hope you're so excited. I am very, very excited as usual to bring you this amazing content. I mean, cancel. Oh, it almost ended the live video. As usual, this is, trial and error with live videos because I've got, hi Raquel, I have got tripods and lamps and pens and books and, trying to work the proper location for the video. Now, let me share a little secret with you today. We tried so many times to get this Facebook Live working today with Mr. Treasure. Here he is. And it didn't know. Cross our fingers and hope for the best. That it works and you can see us and you can hear us. I think we'll be fine. I think we'll be fine. Yes,
Hi,
here
Raquel.
he is. Welcome.
We
Bret.
are live in the best group ever.
We are live in the best group ever. And this is the best group ever because we get people like you to come and share with us all your knowledge. And we can grow and learn together. So thank you for being here today.
You're welcome, of course.
Well, let me tell you a little bit about this amazing man that is here with me today. I've known him for a long, long time. How long have I known you for, Bret? 6, 7 years now? 5?
Yeah,
somewhere like that.
2008, yeah.
Well, what?
No, 2012. Yeah, 2012.
2012,
Yeah.
yes. Okay, well, so that is about 6 and 7 years now.
Yeah.
And Bret is a marketing and content expert. He is the creator and mastermind behind Free Beer, which is I've got notes here, a marketing consultancy agency in Perth and works worldwide. He's just done a trip around the world, living in places like Argentina, Chile, New York, etc., etc. And you never know what you're gonna get with this man. I love his quirkiness, I love his brain, and I am honored to have him here today, sharing with you and us all what he knows about creating amazing content, which is what he does best. Is anything I've missed, Mr. Treasure?
No, that's a fulsome explanation and very complimentary. Thank you.
My pleasure. And when my children learned your name, my daughter goes, is that his real name, Treasure? Wow, that's so cool.
I never have problems with people not knowing how to spell my name.
That's fantastic. I wish I could say the same. I wish I could say the same. Well, Bret, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy, busy life to be here with us.
Sure.
And before we start with, absorbing all your wisdom and knowledge, I'd love you to tell us a little bit. Just break it up to very basics. What is content and why does it matter?
Oh, well, I will be brief about that. Content is all the stuff that you put out there in the universe about your business, whether it be text or what you say or video or anything at all really that you put out there. Could be photos that is some kind of a representation of your business or an encouragement for people to get involved around it.
Okay.
And it includes all the social media stuff. So anything you put on Twitter or Facebook is content.
Good. Great. So
and I think the other part of your question was, why is it important to to have good quality in that area? So
yes.
So really, you're going to be doing it. If you're doing it anyway, you may as well do good quality stuff because the difference is substantial in terms of. I can talk from a newsletter viewpoint in terms of the reach that you get. If your quality is original and good, then you'll get more than double the amount of newsletter opens, and you'll get a higher engagement. You'll get higher amounts of click-through, and that all rubs off on your business. You'll also get a higher number of repeat opens. We do one newsletter for a client where they average 2.5 opens for everyone who gets it. So they're going back and opening it a second time and a third.
Really?
Yeah. And, like last week, someone opened it 18 times. And that rubs off on your business because obviously they're going to have a positive kind of...
That must be amazing content. If someone's opening the same letter a couple of times,
Yeah.
or 3 times or 18 times.
They're obviously opening it to show other people what they saw in the newsletter or sharing it with others in the business. So that's...
And look, and this is why... Yeah, this is why I wanted you to have this conversation with me today, because, we're in business and we're trying to come up with all these ideas. What am I supposed to be doing in terms of telling people who I am? Like the usual way that people start their businesses is okay, well, I'm going to have a website. I'm going to have a Facebook page. I'm going to be on Instagram. Yeah. And what do I put there? And so the first place that people go and look for this stuff to see what's working and what's not working is they go outside and they look at what everybody else is doing. Yeah. But then if you replicate what everybody else is doing, you're not doing your own thing.
Yeah.
And then there's no, you were just talking about uniqueness and stuff like that. Well, there's no uniqueness if you're using cookie cutter formats from other people.
That's right. I'll give you an example of that. There was some publicity recently because the tourism industry in Western Australia says they're not getting enough money from the government and they need more money to be competitive. Well, the problem there is that there is no uniqueness in their content. You ask somebody overseas, why would you go to Perth instead of Sydney? They're not going to have an answer for you because we haven't created that uniqueness around Perth and Western Australia. So that's the job that needs to be done there is, well, how do we create uniqueness? And then from that, you go, okay, well, what would be an appropriate medium for that? And what resources have we got? And then you design around that.
Great. So for us as business owners, it'll be looking inwards and go, okay, what makes me unique? And that's a question that we do ask ourselves all the time. But then we may not be the best judge of character in telling ourselves what's unique about us. And this is where your people, the people that have worked with you, and the feedback that you get would be the ones that would say, well, this is what I think is unique about you, right?
Yeah.
And that helps you create the content.
Yeah, sometimes you're the least qualified person to talk about your business. So if your product occurs to you as boring or you can't think of what to say about it, the best thing you can do is talk to other people around you and say, well, what do you think about this? I knew this guy who used to sell fire extinguishers, and he was so apologetic about it because he thought it was such a boring job. And when people asked him what he did, he said, I sell fire extinguishers, right? But he hadn't created any context that was interesting for them. He could have said, I have products which make people heroes in dangerous situations. And people would have gone, wow, that sounds fantastic. And then if you go, oh, well, that's the context for my product. I'm creating heroes in dangerous situations. That suggests content, right? We could write a newsletter about people being heroic in dangerous contexts. And you don't have to give them a whole lot of content about the features and the price and all that stuff. You need to just give them a context that kind of speaks to your business proposition.
Well, it's funny that you use the word because you're using 2 words in alignment. You're using the word content and the word context.
Yeah.
So you can't, what I'm getting in what you're saying is that you can't write content if you don't have a context.
Very true.
For that content.
Very true.
Light bulb moment.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell us about context and tell us, I don't know, you and I were discussing earlier today case studies. And I don't want to take you off track from what you got prepared for us.
No, that's
so
cool.
you take this conversation however you want to take it. What you mentioned context, and you also mentioned how do you create content for a product that's boring? And I am sure that a lot of people here will say, well, my business, there's nothing amazing that I can share about my business.
Yeah.
It's very boring.
Yeah. Well,
what do you have for them?
I think the best example I can think of that for that is shoe polish, right? So somewhere in the world, an advertising agency said to one of their people, look, we're going to give you the account for shoe polish, and the person who was the account director went, great, shoe polish, right? So I've got the Kiwi shoe polish account, fantastic. So excited to sell that, right? But here's what they did with it. They created a campaign where they got artists to paint old masters. And they said, we want you to reproduce exactly the old master portraits, the Mona Lisa, the girl with the pearl earring, the Rembrandt, the Van Gogh self-portrait, all of that, all those famous self-portraits. Reproduce them exactly. But we want you to also paint a separate painting to go underneath it, which is the bottom half of the painting showing their shoes, right? So that's what they did. And they created an art exhibition, which is what would the bottom of the Mona Lisa look like? What would the bottom part, if he'd painted the whole thing, including the feet, what would that look like? And they toured that exhibition all around the world, or to a number of places in Europe. But not only that, here's where it got really clever. They worked with a company that do virtual apps for galleries. And so if you're in the Louvre and you're looking at the actual Mona Lisa, you could hold up your phone and it would put underneath the Mona Lisa the bottom half of the picture. So it
No way.
Yeah, it gave you the context. And they did an audio guide which had mentions, like one mention per painting of a boot polishing reference. So it was like, oh, and the veneer that Rembrandt used on this painting was particularly interesting and completely see-through. Of course, not suitable for boot polish, right? So there were subtle comedic references like that. And they just built this whole story around it for what ostensibly was a boring product.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about, what would that take to create something? Because that's pretty grand for a very boring product. So I'm thinking budget, I'm thinking creating the app, and there's a lot of stuff that went into it to market a very simple product.
That's right.
It's fantastic.
That was a big budget project. But all of the ones that are most successful are based on a good idea, well executed.
Yes.
And that applies whether you've got a big budget or not. So I'm going to give you and your listeners my tips for creating viral content, even if you don't have a big budget, right?
Yes.
So here's the first one. Take a risk.
Okay.
You haven't got a budget, you're going to need to take a risk. And I'm going to give you a big budget example of that, which was Nike in America bought into the controversy about footballers kneeling for the national anthem. Tremendously controversial subject, but they ran an ad with Colin Kaepernick, who was the protagonist, which was about being your dream. And in that ad, which is beautifully written, I recommend you go and listen to it if you don't know it. He says, Colin Kaepernick voices it, he says, believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything. Because he sacrificed his career on the basis of this, right? So it was a fantastic piece of, but Nike, the guy from Nike, the boss, took a risk running a very controversial campaign, even though he had a lot at stake. So same logic applies to small campaigns. If you want to make a big impact, you're probably going to have to be a little bit risky and do something adventurous. And you can, sorry, you want to say something?
No, I'm hearing what you're saying, and I'm thinking that was a huge risk.
Yeah.
Massive.
Massive.
And I guess, where's the, when you don't have, so you're running risks because you don't have a budget, or maybe Nike did have a budget, but they wanted to have a huge impact. So they went beyond what they would have normally done because they wanted to have that massive impact, like the shock impact. So when you want to have that shock impact and attract people and go, whoa, and have people go, wow, this person is different. There's a line, though, that you don't want to cross, which is, whoa, they're going to be too far, and I didn't like it. And
most people, that's right. And most people don't want to take that risk. Well, that's okay. You're limiting your options in terms of going viral. So you don't have to take a risk. You can try other strategies. But if you're prepared to not take yourself so seriously, and this is where Australians have a disadvantage because they take themselves very seriously. Americans don't do it quite the same way. Get out on the limbs and do something that doesn't take your product so seriously. Like in the example of Western Australia, right? So here's an idea for the WA thing, for the tourism thing. The thing that you hear overseas, like I heard all throughout South America and the US about Australia, dangerous animals, right? Oh my God, Australia, I'm going to be bitten by a snake and die from a venomous spider. Right, that's really out there as a real concern that people have about Australia. So, you could take a risk. You could go, okay, well, Perth, make an ad where person coming into Perth is at customs, and the customs guy's giving them the anti-venom for the spider bites that they're going to get, and the anti-venom they're going to get for the, and you know, here's what you need to know. Oh, you're going to be here for 6 months? You're obviously going to be attacked by a shark, so you'll need this. You know, just have a bit of fun with it. Like humour and not taking yourself seriously is a really, really elevates your chance of going viral.
Yeah, and so in what you're saying, I'm here. You don't have to go all the way to really make a massive, strong political statement that may shock half the country. But you can go out in a limb. You can be a bit risky. You can put some humor in it. You can test the waters. And I guess if you don't do it, you'll never know. Well,
that's right. The other thing that is political, not party political, but when you think of the biggest success, one of the very biggest successes in the last few years in marketing was the Dove campaign. You know, and someone said to Procter & Gamble, look, you've got this, premium beauty soap, but fact is, there's a whole undercurrent out there of women who hate the beauty industry and think that it's not setting the right example for girls in society. So they bought into that and they created their brand around subverting all of those beauty industry norms. Tremendously successful project. I was working for Colgate-Palmolive at the same time. Colgate, which is before then, Colgate had a product which was a premium soap, which was called Cleopatra. Similar formula, similar starting point, but as far as they were concerned, it was all about indulging yourself and spoiling yourself, right? That was completely appropriate in the 1950s, but in the in 2015 or whenever it was Dove launched, like the climate had changed and they tapped into a political undercurrent, and that worked. So taking a risk, being political, there are two things you can do. If you've got a cause that you're interested in, associate it with your brand. Give good consideration to associating it with your brand and take a risk. That's something. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. I am not big on buying brands, right. Like I will never buy something because of the brand. I take a lot of things into consideration when I purchase something.
Yeah.
But and toilet paper, for example, is one of those things when you go, look, I'm gonna use it once.
Right.
I'm gonna buy the cheapest one I can afford, like the cheapest one out there that does
I'm never coming to your house again.
No. But then Who Gives a Crap came to the market.
Yeah.
And then they're not cheap, you know, they're not the cheapest toilet paper. But the way they've branded, man, the way they've marketed their product, the way every time you open a roll, they have a special message for you. And what they do is they're saying, look, A, we're not using trees. We love trees. We speak tree. Number two, we are building toilets. So for every toilet paper roll that you buy, you're actually building someone a toilet. And you're like, wow, it's like you were saying earlier today, you went to give blood and they said to you, hey, this blood's going from here right now to theater.
Yeah.
So you feel like, oh my God, I've just made a difference to someone.
Yeah, that's right.
And I'm barely trying.
They changed the context. They took it outside, oh, this is just a product that you buy and they're all the same, into, no, this is something where you can make a difference in the world. That's a different context.
Yes, and it makes it easier to be part of something because, we're talking business here. We're not talking specifically marketing and sales, which is part of what content does, because when you're selling something, you're actively saying, buy this, buy this. But in the branding and the content creation of what you do, you want people to be part of what you believe in, part of what you do. Yeah. So think about you. I'm going to talk to the viewers at the moment. When you are in your business, you're not just selling something because you want people to buy it. They're going to be part of something. And this is why people recommend businesses, because they go, well, I really love what these people stand for. May they be lawyers, accountants, bookkeepers, content creators, marketing agencies, whatever. I love what they stand for. I worked with them and I would recommend anybody works with them. Yeah. So you want to be that kind of person, don't you?
Exactly. Yeah, no, that's exactly right.
That's fantastic.
So back to the viral tips, right? Let me put a couple more of those out there. If you don't have a budget, then recruit a stand-up comedian that you like and get them to generate some ideas for you. And you can go to any open mic night around the country, find someone whose style you like. There are good people starting out, and go, look, I want to give you $200 to develop some ideas for me. And if they develop something you like, then you go, okay, I'm going to give you $500 to produce the video. And you want to give them, you want to do the right thing and say, look, if this goes on and gets viral and we get 200,000 hits, I'll give you $2,000. Yeah. So give them a small amount of money because they'll probably work cheaply, but give them a larger amount if you get the successful result out of it. So stand-up comedians, really good resource, and they'll work cheaply. Amateurs will.
That's amazing. I would have never thought of that.
Yeah, well, like you can recruit other people to help you in this process. That's one of the things that makes it easy, is breaking it down, because particularly one-person businesses think they have to do everything, and really there's a lot of different components to content, and one of them is doing the research. One of them is doing the ideation, doing the strategy, actually doing the posting, doing the creation of the content, doing the analysis of the content, doing the reposting, doing the engagement with the people on social media. They're all different things. They could all be done by a different person. You could have your children, you could have your neighbor, you could have all those people doing the bits that you don't think you're good at, and you just tie it all together. Or you get a manager and they tie it all together. So yeah, those things are right. But stand-up comedians are a resource, but also be looking for other creatives who can potentially do the same thing. So look for sculptors, look for photographers, and certainly writers, and stalk platforms like Fiverr and DeviantArt and places like that, where there are, even Flickr. Find people who are doing good work and ask them, can you help me with some work? I can't pay you too much, but here's what I can offer. And recruit those people and let them work with them to develop the content. If you have to let them do the ideation, great, let them generate the ideas. But harness those creative resources if you don't have them yourself. I mean, even if you do have them.
That's interesting, because I've done that with friends and with family. So I've got children, and my 12-year-old is very, very creative.
Yeah.
So one day I said to her, look, I would like to write something about my business.
Yeah.
And she goes, I'll do it. So she just went on a Word document and she started typing things. And it was hilarious, from a 12-year-old point of view. But there was a lot of that was pretty usable.
Yeah.
And I've done the same with friends, who everybody will have a different take on you and what you do and who you are. And so you can take these little bits and pieces and put them in your content.
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly right.
Yeah, great.
Exactly.
Wonderful. Well, how about you tell us about, I'm dying to hear the story about the toilets.
Oh, okay. Well, it's just really an example of people thinking that subjects are not interesting, but actually they are. So I wrote a newsletter about toilets, and it started off saying, look, in 1669, when Hennig Brand boiled up 1,500 gallons of human urine, he didn't get what he expected, right? So what do you think he expected?
Well, I don't know where you get 15,000 gallons of urine in the first place anyway.
Good point.
Why would he boil them? What was he trying to do? I don't know. I don't know what he expected to. I think when you boil urine, first thing that comes to mind is you get a lot of steam.
I don't know. I've never done it.
So a lot of evaporation would happen. So I don't know what you do with that.
Well,
no, I don't know.
He was convinced. He was dead set sure that he was going to synthesize gold by doing this. 1669, everyone's trying to work out how they could create gold, right? So that's what he thought he was going to get. What he actually got was the ability to synthesize the element phosphorus.
Okay.
Which made him a very wealthy guy, because phosphorus is used in fertilizers, and now it's used in, lighting and lots of other things as well. Yeah. But, so there was a story, there's a story around that. There's stories for everything, right? So that was the start of that newsletter. And then we worked out that there's all this human creativity in the visual area gone into working out how you quickly visually signal to people that this is for men and this is for ladies. Okay. Where that happens in the real world is in the toilets, because there's always a male toilet and a female toilet, right? So the signage is really interesting. Sometimes it's symbols, sometimes it's words, sometimes it's letters. Lots of times people use jokes. So we captured all of that and put that in the newsletter as well. That was interesting content. And there are people who, you know, hand paint ceramic toilets. So there was all this artwork that we discovered, you know, using Pinterest and all these resources that are already around. So that we ended up with this really rich, entertaining newsletter about a subject which most people, you know, wouldn't have thought was interesting. And the impact of that is when if you do it right the first time, and this is critical, right? You do it right the first time, they open up your new newsletter and it's got content of that quality. It's like the next time you write a newsletter, they're going to go, oh, I think I'll open that. So your open rates for subsequent newsletters get high because they get to realize that the quality content is there. And the secret is, don't shove your sales message down their throat. Nobody wants you to be selling this. There's a well-known winery in Perth has a newsletter. It's historically been awful. It ran to 8 pages. It was full of bold type. I mean, 8 pages worth of just selling their products, basically. And really, you know, it's the wrong approach. People are not interested. So give them 80% entertainment, rough kind of numbers, 20% sales message. You're on the right track.
Well, it's interesting because what I'm hearing, you know, when you're talking about toilets and the female and male and the ceramic toilets and all the rest, all of a sudden, this very boring topic that if I was given a newsletter to write about toilets, I wouldn't even know where to start. But you've brought out a hell of a lot of content that is creative and is interesting, and I wouldn't have even thought of. And then all of a sudden, I'm interested in a subject that I wasn't interested in 5 minutes ago.
That's right. And here's the benefit from a newsletter viewpoint, is when you phone up your client to have a conversation, your prospective client, to have a conversation with them, they'll go, oh, hey, I love that thing you put in the newsletter the other day. And instantly you've got a connection with them that you didn't have before.
Well, but you know what? In this world that we live in today, where there's so many, I don't know about your inbox, my inbox is full. Like it just, the never-ending flow of newsletters and emails and updates on stuff and subscriptions and what, it comes to a point that you don't know what's what anymore. So if you can be, I guess what you're saying is, if you can be the one that keeps it short and sharp and sweet, super entertaining, that would be worth my 5 minutes.
Just think about how 5 minutes. Think about how you are as a consumer, and then go, what do I do when I'm opening emails? How much attention do I pay? You know, I don't do many emails.
You know, anybody that has ever worked with me will know that they will never get an email from me because I don't do newsletters for this very reason. I don't want to spam anybody. The last thing I want is for you to receive an email from me and go, oh my God, another email that I have to open. So
but that depends on what's in the email, right? Because you could write really good content.
So if I ever write anybody an email, I want it to be specific to them, and I want to make sure that the content in that email or newsletter will be very valuable and they will be really worth their time.
And what's interesting about you from the viewpoint of your viewers, I think, is you're a really good example of someone who's found a medium that works for you, which is Facebook, and you're using it really effectively. So this is the job that everyone needs to do around content. It's like, what medium is appropriate for me? What do I like doing? What am I good at doing? What can I get someone else to do well? Not, I have to be on every platform. You don't have to be every platform. In fact, if you're on a platform and you're not using it properly, get off. You know, because it gives people
I love that. Say that again. Say that again, because I cannot say that enough. Get off all other platforms.
Don't do it. Don't do it badly or half-assed. Do it passionately and enthusiastically. Even if you only do one thing, do it passionately and enthusiastically, and throw yourself into that. You don't have to do everything.
Fantastic.
Hey, let me just drop one other tip in there about the content and the virality stuff, and that is around the example of the toilet newsletter. Is you don't have to provide information about your product all the time. It's fine for you to curate other people's content. So one of the things I do for some of my clients is I just curate the content. So I've got a client who's in the outdoor media industry, and what I do is I look for best practice, most outstanding outdoor advertising campaigns from around the world. And we post that and all their clients get to see it. Now, they haven't done that, right? It's not their campaign. But what we're doing is positioning that company as someone who's an expert and interested in high quality campaigns. And that's what gets communicated. So you don't have to be talking about your product necessarily. You can talk about, look, these people over here are doing a great job in our industry. And this is a great example. I love the way they've done it. Be as complimentary and generous as you like. And your users will associate that with you and your brand. I'll go, oh, these people are obviously...
Okay, so are you saying
quality.
that we should promote other people's businesses? Because this is like going against the grain.
Yeah.
That's...
You
people
should.
go like, don't do that.
Yeah. No, if your competitors are doing something, well, like it's easy now because you've got competitors in the UK and in, all over the world who are doing great work, who are really not a competitive threat to you. It's no skin off your nose to give them a pat on the back, because your customers here are probably not going to go to Italy to buy flowers from that florist, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's if you,
no, I'm big on really sharing good content and sharing good stuff that other people are doing. I don't care, because I don't believe that everybody's suited to everybody else. So people will come and work with me if they feel like we're a right fit, and otherwise, I think it's my role, as you're saying, to show and to promote what I think is working really, really well up there.
That's
and
right.
People will their own decisions.
Yeah, and that will pay back
Cool.
for you in terms of your reputation with those people.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Look, I'll be honest with you, Brett. I don't have a watch with me, so I actually have no idea what time it is. So you
it's
keep
just
me on
after
track.
6 o'clock. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Done.
So so far, I'm gonna go back to my notes. Loving this session, guys. This is a Q&A. We have one question that he can answer for you before the end of this live, and we still have so much to talk about. So if you want us to keep on going, we will. Otherwise, we'll wrap it up. But so far, we've spoken about how to jazz up a product that's boring, how to create amazing content with no budget, and I want you to tell us, because we label this live content fails and how to avoid them.
Oh yeah, sure. No, look, I love this topic.
So what would you like to say about that? Because I've got here some...
Well, we've covered the first one.
Risks.
Yeah, sorry?
No, we've spoken about risks and case studies.
Yeah.
Now, you didn't mention, you did say to me to mention the fearless girl.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I would like to talk about fails at some stage. So if you want to, let's just keep going, Brett. I'm loving this session.
All right, great. Well, look, let me talk about the fails first. So one of them we've already covered, which is being bored. If you look like you're bored with Instagram and you've only got one post every 2 weeks, then
get out.
That's a fail. That is a fail. Doesn't matter if anyway, we've covered that. Second fail is to be boring. Yep. So if your communication is all full of, we've got an event coming up, we've got these features, we've got a 10% discount, you're being boring. You really need to add some stories to what you're doing to generate any engagement. Really, in almost all cases, it's about engagement. I mean, at some point someone went, you know what, let's take a video of someone taking our new product, out of the box. We'll do an unboxing video. I mean, what a stupid idea. But turns out people made it entertaining, and now it's a thing. People do unboxings, right? So that was just a bit of creativity. Where nothing existed, suddenly there's such a thing as unboxing.
But how do you know if you're being boring? Because maybe you think you're being very entertaining or very engaging, and you don't know you're being boring.
Very good point. And that's one of the other fails, is to be self-indulgent. So if you're just indulging yourself and you think you're very amusing, make sure someone else says you're amusing. And it shouldn't be prompted, right? It should be someone who you don't know contacts you and goes, I love what you did. That was great. And if they do, you're on the right track. If you're sending out a newsletter to 2,000 people and no one ever comments when you're talking to them on the phone about your newsletter, you're doing it wrong. So you've got to get other people to, if other people are not responding, it's boring and you're indulging yourself. So be careful with that. And the worst example, I'll tell you the absolute worst example, drives me nuts, the most self-indulgent piece of content you will ever find is podcasts, where people sit there and prattle on for an hour with someone they like, and they have a great old time, but it's zero interest to the listener. And they're talking about all things that are interesting in their life, but really, unless they're making you laugh or they're giving you valuable information, you know, I could be washing my hair.
Yeah.
So that's,
and I am now getting into podcasts, so I know what you're saying, because it has to be engaging and it has to be the thing that you want to come back to. It's a little bit like what we're doing here. You know, this is now, what are you, my third live, and people keep coming and watching this, and I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that they're getting a lot of value out of this. Otherwise, there's no point. May as well you and I do this in a coffee shop. Yeah,
exactly.
Just the two of us.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. So the fourth fail we've covered, which is essentially being greedy. So if all of your posts are about how you need to buy my product and you're trying to sell me things all the time and there's no entertainment content in there, that's a fail most times. And the last one is to be contrived. And the most famous example of this is the Pepsi video with Kendall Jenner in it. I don't know if you've seen it, but it just misses the mark completely. Now, they had a big budget, they had lots of research dollars, they would have tested it, but it just completely fell flat because it just looked like a setup and an unrealistic situation. So instead of doing something contrived, then just tell the truth about your product. That's a much better alternative. Okay. Yeah. So is this Pepsi you're talking about? Yeah, it's a Pepsi campaign. Okay. And there was a protest, and she goes over and gives them a can of Pepsi. You've mentioned a few. You've mentioned a few ads and things in this video today that I would love if they are available. Are there links that we can put underneath that we can? Yeah, sure. I'd love you to do that for us if you can, because I'd love people to know exactly what you were talking about. It sounds super interesting. Yeah, it means more if you can see the actual ad. That's right. Okay, so there it fails. So being contrived, I don't know what that means. It means like you're trying too hard to be something you're not? Yeah, you've just fabricated a scenario, which clearly you've just created to try and sell something. And okay, wait a second, because this is an interesting one. Yeah. That's an interesting one. Yeah. In the sense that, because, you know, in what I do, I work with people all the time who have this fear in the back of their minds, or if people really know who I am, they're not going to want to buy from me. If they really knew how I operate, if they really saw how little I know about what I'm doing, they wouldn't buy from me. We've got the imposter syndrome, where people are like, I'm not the best in my industry, other people are doing it better. So all of that makes you think that you have to fabricate something to put out there so that people will like you and buy from you. Right, but you've already got the antidote to that, which is to just be authentic and be yourself, which is what you do in your Facebook communications. So that's the answer, is just be real and be authentic about it. And then if you've got some kind of stunt that you want to create, that could still be valid. But if it looks like you're trying too hard, and it looks like you're just faking it in order to get some attention or something, people are going to find out and they're not going to like it. They don't like it. So the whole fake it till you make it? No, don't fake your communications. If it's funny, that can be different. If you're doing something genuinely funny, but if you're creating something where people go, well, they've just stolen a joke from somewhere and they're using that joke to sell their product. I recognize that old joke. It's not authentic. Yeah, so basically what you're saying is just be honest, be authentic, say your thing, show who you are, and your message has to be clear. Yes. And people will want to listen to you if that's the case. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'd love to hear, we've got a couple of people watching. I'd really love to hear if any of you has any insights or any questions for Bret while he's here. I am loving your content, and let me go back to your notes, because I totally relate to a lot of the things you've been saying. Okay, so there's one thing that we said that we would talk about, and I'm not sure, I think we have kind of touched on it, but I'm not sure. What if you really
hate writing.
Oh, yeah.
Like you've asked your family, you've asked your friends and all the rest, and
Yeah.
you're like, and in my personal experience, every time I've tried to create content for myself,
Yeah.
people will be like, well, we can help you, but you have to edit it, you have to put your personal touch. And I go like, oh no. And you know this because you've tried to help me as well. And so when it comes to me and talking about myself, I'd rather just go and watch Netflix because it's hard for me.
Yeah.
So what if, and I don't hate writing, but I do hate writing about myself. So what do you say to people that just don't have the writing gene in them?
Well, I think you're on the right track in a way, because you've identified which part it is that you don't like. So that's what people should do if they're in that boat, is go, what is it that I don't like about this? Do I just not think I'm good at writing? Do I hate writing? Am I good at writing but I don't like writing about myself? Do I not have the discipline to regularly write? They're all separate problems, right? So just work out exactly what the problem is and then get the appropriate solution. If your problem is you don't have the discipline to write, you don't mind it, you're good at it, but you're just busy and you don't have the discipline to do it regularly, get a coach. Get a coach to hold you accountable. That's an easy solution. That's right. Go and talk to Raquel. She'll hold you accountable and kick Freckle.
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah. But you do have the option of, and if you want to do regular content, you do have the option of getting other people to write it. But again, you can break it down and go, look, I'm good with the ideas and I'll get someone else to write it. Or I'll let someone else come up with the ideas because I can write it. Yep.
Yeah.
Just do the bit that you need to do and find the person who can do the bit that you don't like or can't do.
You're breaking it down.
Break it down to exactly what was my problem here.
Yeah, I like it because I had never thought about it that way. When you think about content, you just think about the whole thing. It's like the whole elephant.
Yeah.
I had to write content.
Yeah.
But you're saying, no, think about the topic. What do you want to write? Do you want to think about the topic, doing somebody else to write it? Then you have the editing bit. Like you made a list of all the steps before. That was very, very interesting.
Okay, good.
You have to do everything.
Yeah. And the other thing is, if we're in the area of content generally, so if you hate writing, you might decide to use photos. Concentrate on that.
Yeah.
And just be Instagram. Like if you've got a retail, if you're a florist, then, Instagram's completely appropriate. You don't need to do writing.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't need to. Find your...
Yeah, like cake making, cake makers and photographers usually do Instagram really, really well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
Put
great.
Cakes on
well,
Instagram.
Well, Naima, I don't know if it's Naima or Najma, says, thank you, great tips. Thank you. We're very glad that you like it and that you got value out of this. Is there anything else that you'd like to say, Bret, before we finish this session? It's been fascinating.
Yeah. I think in terms of content generally, you should be doing video. If you can, do video. And the same thing applies. If you don't want to do video, do you not want to do it because you're technically intimidated, or you don't like the way you look on camera, or you think you haven't got the budget or whatever? Work out why you don't want to do it, and then get the people to fill in the gaps. But video content is enormously powerful, and get it well written.
Okay.
Yeah? Don't just farm it out, because all your content is your brand. So make sure that you're doing great quality video. What you're doing is spontaneous. It's a different thing. But if you're doing pre-prepared an explainer video, if you're doing an explainer video or something like that, then invest in the quality. Invest in the writing. Invest in the editing. If you own it, they're the critical things. Get the writing, get the editing, and you can do the stuff in the middle and save yourself a bucket of money. But you must have someone who knows what you're doing editing, and you must have a good script. Yeah,
because I'll say something about this, because this is something that I get caught up in a fair amount, because I'm all about producing content and just giving content in a casual way to people who are like right now we have in the group. And so I've got you, and the way that we set up this live today, the purpose of this live was for you guys to have Bret today give us this amazing content so that you can walk out of this session today with some tips on how to generate content for yourselves and your business. So is it amazing? Not really. Is the lighting perfect? Not really. Is the sound, whatever? There's a lot of stuff that won't be perfect. So I wouldn't use this if I was going to do an online course, something that would be charging thousands of dollars for, in which I would have a series of interviews. I would pay, like Bret is saying, I would pay far more attention in the lighting, the editing, the subtitles, the background, etc., because that would be a one-off interview that I could replicate and use in a content in a format which would be the online program that I could sell over and over and over and over to people for thousands of dollars. So there's a place for everything, and this session today has a different aim, which for me is more of a let's get acquainted, let's talk to each other, let's share this content. And although, you know, Bret's getting darker and darker by the minute, it doesn't matter, because what he's saying is just very powerful and amazing. So when you say make sure it's all well written and well edited, etc., it sounds a bit scary, because people will take that as a reason not to do it, because they go, well, I don't have what it takes, I don't have the means, I don't have the budget for video editing, or I don't know how to edit or write or something. So don't let that stop you. Do what I'm doing. Start somewhere, do something. And then when you go, well, now that I've tried this and I know I can do it and I haven't died, then I can go the next step and do it professionally or in a far better context, so that I can monetize it better. You know?
Exactly, Raquel. Just chunk it down into its individual components and then find the people to help you where you need the help. And
wonderful. Well, takeaways. I am going to go through what you said. You basically said, if you don't have a big budget, run risks and get people to help you with creating your content. Bring some fun and bring some, like the shoe polish story was fantastic. I really, really loved it. And don't be boring.
And consider being political. Consider that as well.
Sorry?
And consider being political. Doing something political, something controversial.
I like being political. Consider being political and controversial. Great. One last word, Bret. Any advice you have on top of everything else you have given this amazing group of people today, and thank you so much for your time today and sharing all this beautiful stuff. A last word for the West Australian entrepreneur today.
Okay. You want me to have a last word for the West Australian entrepreneur?
Yes.
I would say take some risks and use video.
I like it. I actually like what you said, you know, though people don't like to be compared, but you said, and I see this because I'm not Australian by birth, that because we are born in this culture of, you know, the whole tall poppy syndrome, or let's not make a lot of noise. When you say, let's take risks, it's something that people in other places of the world do naturally, because there's no consequences for taking risks. So if we could embrace taking risks a bit more, that would be great. So
don't take yourself so seriously.
Wonderful. Well, thank you.
So
where do these people find your amazing writing if they wanted to?
We'll go to freebeer.com.au is my website, and they can find me there. They can find you there. freebeer.com.au. What a funny name. Thank you, Bret. I hope everybody has loved today as much as I have. We may have you again. Okay. Keep an eye. We may have you again. If you have loved it, let us know, and we may have this amazing man again and talk about marketing next time. With better lighting next time. Love you. Love you all. Have a wonderful day. Let us know what you thought, and thank you for watching. Thank you, Bret. Thanks, Raquel. Bye for now. Bye.